Hey, what's up, rock stars? It's Rox coming to you today with a review for Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, The Reunion, Part 2. So, you guys, this reunion is just boring. I'm ready for it to be over. I don't even really feel like it needed to be 3 parts. Anytime that they jump around just like from topic to topic and there's not no real, true, like, it's nothing really that they can really focus on to talk about other than Marlo, really. Marlo's the only person that really just kept everybody's panties in a fucking bunch. And otherwise, it was just a whole bunch of, anyway, you guys, I'm ready for it to be over. Bring on Potomac. Anyway, you guys, the review. Let's get to it, shall we? All right, you guys, so the show starts where it ended last week. Marlo crying about how the people don't know her, but they talk bad about her, how they say that she's a hoe and she slept with all these men, but they can't produce any man that she's slept with, anybody that she's stolen money from, none of that, okay? And all of that, again, would hold a lot of weight if Marlo wasn't Marlo and didn't do the things that she did. Kenya was like, oh, whatever. You know, the whole thing is Marlo says one thing, but she acts a completely different way. She'll say some things that make people feel sorry for her, but then she'll turn around and say that Candy's pussy ain't good. Okay, and then you expect people to not come back at you after you say something like that? Sanya jumps in and takes up for Marlo and says, you know, even though Marlo could say some bad things every now and then, you know, that Marlo has been a good friend to her. I was like, keep on living, Sanya. You make it back next season, I guarantee you, at one point, Marlo is going to cross you. She is not loyal really to anybody. Drew says that it's hard for her because Marlo has been a good friend to her this season, but also Marlo has said some things that make her not really sure. So she's still trying to figure out exactly where she stands with Marlo. So then we talk about the break-in, and, you know, the break-in has been all over the news and everything, so we already know. Marlo basically said that they kicked the door in. Her nephew screamed out like auntie, you know, and she said it was terrifying scream. She knew something was wrong. You know, she said that she said some things to the robbers, you know, like where she is and what she got waiting for them, and they ended up leaving. Okay. Now, the big discussion was whether or not Marlo put the rest of the girls in danger by not sharing information. Kenya probably spoke too early, or, you know, maybe, I don't know. I think that in an investigation like that, I'm sure the police do tell you not to really say too much. However, the fact that the women seem to be some sort of target because Candy had her scare earlier in the season, and then Marlo had the break-in, and then shortly after that, Drew had some sort of something. They didn't tell us what happened with Drew, but I'm assuming it had something to do with somebody approaching her home, her family, something like that. So, Kenya had said in the blogs at the time that, you know, Marlo, by her not sharing all the information with the other ladies, had put them in danger. Okay, so now they had to ask Kenya what, you know, what she meant about that. Kenya said she was glad that Marlo and the boys weren't hurt. However, she just wished that they could have all gotten together and, you know, kind of compared notes to figure out what was going to keep them all the safest. Because like I said, it sounded like they were targeting the Housewives. Okay, now we know they're targeting just celebrities, period. But I understand what Kenya was saying, but I also understand what Marlo was saying. She said that they told her not to share much, you know, as the investigation was going on. But she said after 3 days or so, she did let the ladies know what was going on. And even Sheree, even though that don't really mean nothing, Sheree said that she didn't feel like she was hiding or keeping things away from them. So there's that. Then we moved on to Michael and William being gone for a month. You guys, if Marlo would have just said, and I said this at the beginning of the season, or like when it happened, if Marlo would have just said the boys are going to go visit their aunt for a month, we wouldn't have had none of this, all of this other, because Marlo always had the intentions of having them boys come back. Okay. Yeah, she might have needed a break, but all she had to do was be like, y'all going on vacation this summer. Instead, we made it seem like, you know, Marlo had kicked the boys out, and that completely just put everybody over, and they couldn't understand how Marlo, coming from the foster care system, would put her boys out like that and all that. And she's even said, you know, the way that she communicates sometimes is not the best. You know, when she said, I kicked the boys out, and I was just like, yeah, And I said that at the beginning. And Marlo knew she hadn't kicked them boys out. They hadn't completely moved out. She knew that they were coming back. That was always what everybody knew. Okay. So, yeah, she rolled the storyline, and, I don't know if it helped her or hurt her. It seemed like it backfired because everybody was mad at her. Andy said, well, you coming from the foster care system, I couldn't understand why you would put them out like that, knowing what you've been through. And even Candy said, yeah, the fact that you even shared with us today that, you went to a home and you thought that was going to be your forever home and everything was going good. And then they told you had to leave. Like that right there, the feeling that you had from that seems like you would have taken, it seems like you would have, that would have been in the front of your mind when you said you kicked the boys out. Well, it don't matter because she didn't kick the boys out. And again, Marlo, she just has she is completely a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde. Okay. Because, Marlo, now she's all soft voice and she's saying how, I didn't know anything. When you go to, when you get foster kids, you go to class and they teach you how to deal with, children that have been sexually abused or children that have been physically abused or children that have mental issues. And, I didn't have any of that. I had to do it all on my own. And I absolutely needed a break. I needed the reset and all that. Okay, well, just call it a fucking break and don't say you kicked them out. So, you guys watch on the Ooh Ladies First podcast when Candy was saying how Marlo just says what she thinks is good TV. Didn't I tell you guys that? I told you guys that Marlo is still in the mindset from from years past of Real Housewives of Atlanta when shit was really way more cutthroat than it is now. Everybody is pretty much secure in their positions. Everybody pretty much has their fan base. Everybody pretty much is where they're going to be now. But back in the day when everybody was still kind of vying to be the top housewife and everybody was vying to be the most paid housewife and the most liked housewife and who was going to be the villain. And Marlo is still of that thinking. So Marlo thinks that, she's got to have some spectacular shit going on when really she could have used the storyline of her family. I guarantee you we're going to hear more about that family next season. If she comes back as a peach holder, and I think that she will, we're going to hear more about that family. And Marlo now she ain't going to completely change, but she going to come up off of this bullshit of her just saying and doing whatever the hell she want to say and do and don't expect somebody to come back at her. One of the viewers asked, why does Marlo feel like it's okay to spoil her foster girls when she gets together with them, but the boys, her own nephews, have to remain humble? And she says that she does teach her girls humility as well. I said, I don't even know if Marlo even knows the word humility. Girl, you can come on with this act on this damn reunion if you want to. Okay, we still know. Listen, we still here. Okay, shout out to Rashida. Marlo, you ain't fooling nobody. But she says that because she only sees the girls, for a little bit of a time, just holidays or special occasions, I guess that's why she wants to treat the girls a little bit, to a little bit more. She doesn't have them full time. What about the sister, the boy's mom? Do you guys speak to the boy's mom? She says, nope, we don't speak to the boy's mom. She's completely cut them off. And so they talked about that situation. Andy thought that it actually was a good approach of Marlo to have okay, you have 15 minutes, you cry it out and everything, and then you just move on. Okay. Life goes on. They just went on and on and on. And the whole time, the other side of the couch, Sheree was listening, but Kenya was just rolling her eyes the entire time. And Candy just sat there just this is Marloing. Okay, nothing more. Andy was like, Kenya, should we move on? Or are you tired of Marlo? She said, please move on. And I was just like, yes, please. We've had enough. Then we move on to production and how funny production was this season. I agree. I don't know if they made some changes to their production staff or whatever, but you guys, we all saw all of the funny little shady little editing that they added into the storylines when Drew might be lying, or if they had to go back to a flashback about what somebody said or did, or any receipts that needed to be pulled. The production was on top of it, and we did enjoy it. It definitely made the season more enjoyable. How about Drew not knowing what gaslit meant? She had to look up the definition, and then she realized that is something that Ralph does to her. I was like, you think? Somebody asked a question about Marlo's edges, how are they doing? Are they flourishing? And she's like, actually, I use Kenya Moore hair care. Okay, I was just like, you a fucking lie. Okay, but Marlo just likes to say these things, Kenya just was like, like, bitch, I see you. Yes, well, you know what? Kenya Moore hair care is very good for the edges. Sheree, what about you being teased about spring, summer, fall, And she was just like, well, everybody always says it, this did become a bit much, but, now I do have joggers in the spring and the summer, and I do have shirts for the spring and the summer. I was like, you did? When? Just now? Like a couple of days ago? Your website went live? When did you guys film this reunion? Girl, you's a big ass lie. Bless Sheree's heart, child. I'll tell you that she by Sheree. Did you guys buy anything from the new website? I haven't even taken the time to go on there and look and see. I mean, I had no intentions of buying anything anyway, but if any of you guys did purchase anything, y'all let me know. What's the shipping time on that? Shit, Sheree need to take pointers from Candy, because Candy got her bitch out worldwide merchandise on the week after that shit went public. As soon as we saw that episode, within that next week, honey, Candy had merchandise available. So that's how you do it. But Candy, the consummate businesswoman, she gonna make some money off of I don't give a damn what. If it's a way to flip it and get some money off of it, you best believe Candy gonna get it. Shit. Then we move on to Kenya. Like I think I have said, and many other people have said, it's been very, very obvious that Kenya has, she's just a totally different person this season. One of the rock stars in my comments said that one of the reasons why they felt like Kenya might be so much more likable this season is the fact that Portia is not there. And no, it's not necessarily because Portia would have been riding her per se or anything like that. It's just that the dynamics of Kenya and Portia being in the same space at the same time, people still continuously pit Kenya and Portia against each other. Whether or not it should be happening or not, it does happen. So I think that the fact that Portia hasn't been there the rock star said the fact that Portia hasn't been there is that Kenya has been able to relax more, because now it's nobody there that is going to make everybody be like, oh, Kenya just don't like Portia. Kenya just doing this because of Portia. Portia. That's out of the space. So now Kenya can just kind of move on with her life. And I mean, I'm not going to give Portia that much energy, meaning like Kenya is like wrapping her whole life around Portia or anything like that. But I think that does have maybe a little bit to do with it as well. It's just sort of like, okay, I can breathe. Okay, nobody can sit up here and blame me for something that's happening with Portia. Okay, so I mean, what you guys think about that? Do you guys think that that's true? I kind of feel like that has a little bit about it. But then also Kenya tells us that she was just in a much better space. Like her being on Dancing with the Stars really did make her happy, because she used to love to dance, and her grandmother loved to dance and see her dance, and they couldn't really afford for her to take dance lessons and things like that. So the fact that she was able to get on Dancing with the Stars, even though her grandmother had died, she felt like she was dancing for her. So that was like her inspiration, and it just made her feel like a whole new person, and she was just happy. And then other things in her life, she's dating. She said she's doing some group dating. All right. But nothing really serious. As far as her divorce is concerned, I don't even think her and Mark are even fighting really when it comes to the divorce anymore. She says it's just at a standstill. They got to wait for their next court date. So really the divorce is still going on. I said, you guys have been trying to go through a divorce longer than you was damn married. And it seems like they didn't really have much together. So, like, what is the holdup? But they say the justice system, okay? It is the wheels of the justice system is churning slowly. But yeah, we all saw the difference in Kenya this season. And it was very pleasant to see. As far as them being mad at Sanya about the trip in Jamaica, like Andy said, I couldn't understand it. Candy couldn't understand it. Why would you guys so mad? Okay. What you even wanted to go that bad for? Sanya had already said that if you guys don't come to that, there's a boat for you guys to go on. And Kenya explained that, well, she thought it was important to her for her to go because the day before she kind of flaked on Sanya. So she wanted to go the next day. But again, I was just like, no, you guys was just using that to try to be mad and just wanted to have something to fuss about because it wasn't even that big of a deal. You was just going to be sitting there watching her film something on camera. Okay. And clearly you guys had a good time on that boat. They had the whole fucking boat staff dancing with them and doing shots and doing all of that. Like, y'all had a grand time on there. So why y'all even cared? And like Sanya said, Sanya was like, listen, it was a long ass day. I didn't, when Marlo showed up there, I just figured the other girls didn't even want to come. All right. And that was fine. I just figured that they decided to go on the boat. Nothing made me think to go and call them and see if they was like, no, I had already gave them options. And so she didn't even realize that they was going to be as mad as they were. Sheree, what did you mean when you said that Sanya needs to learn how to handle Kenya? And so then Sheree was just like, well, we have to, you have to be on your P's and Q's when it comes to Kenya. Kenya is ready at all times. Okay. She's got to come back for you. She's going to put you in your place. She's going to read you down. She's going to shade you. Whatever she got to do, honey. She keeps the shit categorized in her brain. This is shit that happens from years and years of being on Real Housewives of Atlanta. As time goes on, you start to know that there's certain information that you need to hold on to because you're going to have to throw it in a bitch face at some point in time. So Sanya is new. And so Sheree was just trying to put her up on game. Like, listen, if you're going to be around Kenya and you're going to be calling yourself trying to come head to head with her, then bitch, you better be ready. Now, speaking of Sheree, her phone rings and she picks up. How convenient, right? Her phone rings and, Kenya looks over at it and was just like, oh my God, Martell, you have to call Sheree back, and Sheree's like, give me my phone, give me my phone. Y'all, they had a good time with Martell. Martell just happened to be FaceTiming her in the middle of her reunion, okay? And Andy gets the phone, and he is like, hey, Martell, and when he gives the phone back to Sheree, he was like, oh my goodness, he is a 10 out of a 10, huh? And Kenya was like, he sure is, honey. And a friend of a friend told me that ding was a 10 out of 10. Of course, Sheree, okay. Was it a 10 out of 10, Sheree? And Sheree said no comment. You guys, Sheree must really be short. Now, Sheree is the only person that I don't think I have seen in person out here in, this is so random, but I haven't seen Sheree in person, have I? No, I've seen Kenya. It's so funny. I've seen Kenya. We were just at the H&M in Cobb County in Cumberland Mall. I saw her in there shopping. I've been around Candy numerous times, Nene numerous times, Cynthia numerous times. They're all tall. Candy is extremely tiny. And so I guess Sheree must be, I didn't even think that Sheree was around Candy's tiny. She's not quite that small, but she ain't tall either. She's definitely not a tall. Okay, that's random. But anyway, I'm just picturing her, and Martell, who was tiny as well. So it's just like, can you imagine the two of them little two mighty mites in the bed, just muscular, strong, little teeny tiny strong? Anyway, we did talk about Ross supposedly being aggressive in Jamaica, and Sanya, y'all know my opinion on that. We can agree to disagree on it. You guys seem to think that he was being aggressive. I didn't think that. Sanya said that she didn't think that. Even Kenya, I feel like Kenya didn't want to back up off of it totally, but Kenya did say like he's a cool guy, very calm, mild-mannered, and all of that. So, you know, maybe child, I don't even feel like having the discussion. Y'all just think what you think on that. I'm gonna think what I think on that. Moving on. Oh, child, and I'm gonna have to get to work soon. Just got about 8 good minutes. Next we have Sanya. Sanya, how was season one for you? Okay, this is her season 1. Was it as you expected? And she said that for the most part, it was a great experience. She said that even coming from her own reality show, it was totally different because now she's in a cast. It's not just about her and her family, her story. It's about everybody's, and you got to navigate the space and know what to say and know what to do and all of the personalities and everything. Okay, which is harder for you, running track or being on the show? She said being on the show, definitely. I would think so too, because if you've been born and bred in track, you know, you were born to do that. You've done it all your life. You ran. I'm sure she's been running since she was young. That's what she knows. Like, she already knows what that's going to be, what it's going to take to get where she needs to be. All of that on Real Housewives of Atlanta, especially as your first season. You don't know what the hell. Okay, you just really got to get in there and you got to figure it out. So, yeah, this was much harder for her. How are her parents? And she said her parents are amazing. She said, you know, the fact that she was around Marlo and Marlo had her issues with her mother, she doesn't take for granted how fantastic her family, her parents are. Okay, as far as her and Ross having a baby, I know this wasn't what she meant, but it felt like this is what she was saying, because she was just like, yeah, I didn't want to have the baby because she felt like she didn't have the support before, and she felt like Ross really wasn't listening to her. Okay, so that was why she was just like, no, I don't want any kids, even though they had agreed earlier in their relationship that they would have more kids. But then after she had that first one, child, after she had little Deucey, child, you know, when you get that one bad kid, then you kind of rethink everything. But then, Lord, I'm telling you, at least in my case, Joe wasn't bad, but Joe was a very extreme baby. So he extremely cried. He cried hard. He laughed hard. He played hard. Everything was extreme. So when I got Jada was so fucking calm. Like, she was calm. She slept through the night immediately. She didn't cry. She didn't smile, but she didn't cry. She just was chilling all the time. So I was like, the Lord knew I couldn't take another Joe, child. I couldn't do it. Whoo, child. So maybe that'll happen with Sanya. But when she said, what part stuck out in my mind is when she said, I told him that I didn't want to have the baby. So then he said, well, whatever you want to do, I'm going to be in your corner. I'm going to listen and I'm going to do this, so it's just sort of, we both have to be on the same page. So then she was just like, okay, now I can have the baby. I was just like, so you just wanted him to just kind of come over onto your side first. And then you was like, okay, we got a baby now. I mean, I guess whatever works, child. So she took out her IUD and they're waiting. So hopefully by the end of this year, she said that she will be pregnant. They talked about Drew telling her that she felt like it was a woman's duty to give the husband what he wants. And I mean, we can go back and forth about this topic however many times as you want. I mean, yes, that is something that everybody needs to agree on. Everybody needs to be on the same page and everything like that. But also, it's not really my duty if you are an absent husband, or you are a husband that doesn't really help, or, you and I got problems. Adding a baby is not going to fix anything. So, and Drew, with her kids, and Ralph, the problems that they've had, or the lies of the problems that they've created so that she can stay on this show, I should say, you sound silly because you want Sanya to be in the same situation as you. You just having a baby just so that Ralph can stick around and the nigga still be disappearing. Well, they didn't say he did any of that this season. But, originally when we met him, that's what you guys was telling us, Drew. That's such an antiquated way of thinking. Like, we need to have more of a conversation about having a baby. It just shouldn't be because that's what he wants. yes, we'll take it seriously and we'll take it under consideration. We'll have a conversation or 2 or 10 about it. But no, I'm not just having a baby because you want me to. Especially if you already fucked up and you ain't barely around and I'm mad at you half the time too. That definitely gonna be worse if a baby comes. And then lastly, you guys, we move on to Kenya versus Marlo. Or should I say Marlo versus Kenya? Because clearly Marlo was the one coming for Kenya. So Andy said, what exactly is the issue? Marlo says that Kenya is dismissive towards her and uses her as she needs her. Marlo, I can't even do the voice today, you guys. I just don't have the patience. Like, Marlo makes up all kinds of lies. Marlo continues to change history, change the facts, rewrite the narrative. Whatever she needs to do to make Kenya look worse than Kenya is what Marlo does. I think we've all seen it. Marlo completely different on this reunion with the soft voice, with her not saying all of the vile, nasty, horrible things that she says on the show. We haven't got any of that display in front of Andy. Like, Andy is the principal. So now she has to act like she has some fucking sense. Fact of the matter is Marlo and Kenya will never be friends because Kenya did let down her guard to try to start over with Marlo when Marlo approached her when they were out of town and went to her room and said, let's just stop doing this. And I really, really wish that we could have seen that dynamic play out because they are both dynamic personalities. They both have been around for so long. It would have been so cool to just see these two just hanging out, having a good ass time, maybe even roasting a couple of other people as a team. But the fact that Marlo chose to go back on her word, do the things that she did and say what she said about Kenya and Candy. Candy, I don't think it affects Candy as much because Candy was like, I know the game. Marlo is just doing what she's doing to be on the show and trying to provide good TV. It's different with Kenya because Marlo and Kenya have had such bad history all the whole time. You know, of course, Marlo's saying the thing about Kenya has a mother that doesn't love her. And, you know, that kind of set them on this path to where they are. So I think that most of us would have been cool if Kenya would have had her new attitude that she's had this season and Marlo and her could have been like, you know, like they could have, it just could have been something totally different. It could have been so fabulous. It could have been so fabulous. We got a little bit of it at the beginning, you know, when Kenya was going to her house, I mean, the land where her house was going to be built, and when Marlo was there for her when they were in New York and all of that. Like, we got a glimpse of what it could be. But it didn't come out because Marlo sold out. Like, Marlo just so fucking disappointing. Okay. Marlo and Kenya, of course, they get to arguing. It just gets to such a crazy space that even Kenya starts to be like, you know, everything about Marlo is fake and lies. Okay. Even her real name is not Marlo Hampton. Okay. Her real name is LaToya Hutchinson. Okay. And Marlo, of course, the whole time is arguing back and forth. Everybody is confused, like, wait a minute, what? Andy is like, is that really your name? Is that really your name? You know, and Marlo, I didn't even hear what she said. But I have a feeling that her mom didn't name her Marlo. I mean, it's fine. People have stage names all the time, you know, so that's not that big of a deal. It's just the fact that Marlo has been in so much trouble anyway. You would imagine that she probably has quite a few aliases or something like that. So, I mean, I think it's not that big of a deal. But even Kenya just making the point that she even lies about her name. Frankly, we don't care that Marlo's real name is LaToya Hutchinson. Marlo and Kenya won't be friends because their storyline stretches if they continue to be enemies. Okay. Even though it is tiring for the viewer, I still feel like people expect Kenya and Marlo not to be friends. Now, Kenya, does it get on your nerves, the things that Marlo says and does? And Kenya says no, because she's an extremely vapid, innocuous, just so not too good of a person anyway. She's very shallow. She brings up situations that's hurtful to other people. She's selfish. And Kenya has figured it out. Like, I'm not dealing with Marlo and her bullshit anymore. So then we talk about Marlo being in jail. Kenya was just like, so Marlo has dragged pretty much everybody that's on this stage. Everybody on this stage. And, but then she doesn't even want to talk about all of the trouble that she's been in. Okay? So Marlo was just like, everybody knows that I've been in jail. Everybody knows that I've been in jail. You know, that was when I was younger. It was at least 20 years ago and all of that. Basically, she was in jail for get into a fight with somebody. Okay, we already know the infamous story slashed up this girl's face. For many, many years, we thought she would never be on Real Housewives of Atlanta as an actual housewife because of that story. It was such a horrible story, but they was able to kind of flip it and just be like, well, Marlo was, you know, she was in the foster care system. She's had a life before she became this fabulous housewife friend. Okay, so they took a chance. They gave Marlo the peach. Marlo said that, yeah, she was out there. She was wilding. She was doing the most. You know, she was a foster kid. She ran away from the foster home. She was in the street. She was hanging out with people that she shouldn't be. And, yeah, she had to beat the ass or two at a club. And, you know, she did go to jail for that. Then she got out, went to like a halfway house, you know, and he was on house arrest, needed to stay in that place. And she would leave all the time. So that's why she had so many violations. That's why she had so many mugshots, because she was not doing what she was supposed to do. It wasn't necessarily because she continued to get in trouble. I mean, the getting in trouble is her not being where she's supposed to be, but it wasn't like she was out robbing stores and stealing from, you know, people and beating folks up and doing all this. It wasn't. Every one of those mugshots didn't have a charge attached to it. Kenya was like, she talks about everybody's issues and the things that everybody has going on but her own. And Marlo was just like, you're a lying bitch. You're a lying bitch. And Marlo was upset. But it was true, Marlo. You do have so much to say about everybody else. And you would think that your life was perfect the way that you come after people. But Marlo was just like, honey, you can keep talking about me, baby. I'm going to continue to shine like a diamond. And then, oh, that wasn't lastly, because then we jump over to Sheree and this whole thing about Anthony. Anthony was the guest on the show that nobody cared about. Actually, he was quite annoying. You could tell from when Candy first met him, and he had his whole little speech and everything. And she was just like, oh, okay. Like, who are you? You are clearly trying to have a moment on this TV. Like, nobody wants to know you. And then turns out that Anthony is extremely messy over there just making up shit. Now, ain't nobody told him that nigga that Ralph was gay. Okay, but he out here telling folks that Ralph is gay. Okay, he out here telling folks that that Sheree don't pay her bills. All right. Of course, Drew and Sheree was pitted against each other because of Anthony, because of the things that he said. And, you know, he was just spreading rumors or whatever. Drew pulls out her phone and she says that her and Anthony and Ralph had a conversation and she recorded it. He tells them that Sheree didn't pay him or whatever. Sheree said that he was not her assistant, okay, even though he's in her phone as Anthony's assistant. She says she put labels on everybody. Okay, Andy, is there a label after my name? No, you're Andy Cohen, okay? You're the one who gave me my job. No, I know who you are, okay? But, so the recording is Anthony telling Drew that, you know, Sheree didn't pay and all of this. But then Sheree pulls out her phone and calls him on FaceTime and asks him, did he say that she didn't pay? And he said no. I was just like, this nigga is backpedaling and he just wants to be on the show and nobody cares about him. And who even listens? Like, who is he? Okay, and you can tell Andy was annoyed because Andy was just like, okay, thank you. All right, okay, that's enough. Okay, goodbye. Like, please stop giving him any more shine. Like I said, the most discarded friend on the show. Nobody cares about Anthony. I couldn't even tell you what he looks like today, okay? Every now and then they'll get them a token gay guy and try to make him, you know, be somebody. We had our Dwight and we had our, it seems like there was one old boy who became the actor around the Dwight time too. What was his name? Can't even think of his name, you know. I keep on wanting to say, I cannot think of his name. Y'all know who I'm talking about, though. The one that started singing and everything. Him, one who was around when Kim Zolciak was on the show. We had him. We had Dwight. We had somebody else more recently. But I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. But Anthony, I clearly was trying to become that person for this season. Didn't quite work. We don't like you, Anthony. Go away. All right, you guys. So, yeah, like I said, part 2 was just, I mean, it's been nothing. And it's funny because Kenya was on something and they asked her how the reunion was and was there any explosive moments. And she sort of was like, no, it was pretty boring. I mean, she said it herself. So it was just like, okay, she wasn't lying. It hasn't been bad, but it ain't been nothing like, really, it could have been 2 parts. Next week, we get the husbands. So we'll see then, you guys. But whatever, I gotta go. Duty calls, you guys. Make sure that you rate, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm itsrox. The channel is itsrox. Everything else I do will be in the bottom bar. All right. So I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I plan on doing the same. Till next time, rock stars.